차렷, 경례. All right, guys. Today we're going to talk about how to do a CMA. All right, we're here with Pete.
Okay. Hey, John, thanks for having me again.
Yeah, I love doing these classes with you. You're such a great instructor.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
All right, so let's just get right to it. So, can you see that screen, Pete?
I can see it just fine.
Okay, so hey guys, so we're just gonna go into RECOLORADO, professional login. I already have it set up, so we're just gonna log in. All right, so you finally got that first ever listing lead, and they're like, how much is my house worth? So that's what we're going to do. It's not an actual appraisal, but we call it a CMA, Comparative Market Analysis, and how to do one. So on your home screen, you'll see search there. There's usually where I go first. So I'll click on residential and search for the property. So in this case, the property is 6266 South Elmira Circle East. Actually, this is my own house. So Pete and I are going to try to do a CMA on this. Where do you start, Pete?
Well, John, I don't start in the MLS. I actually start in the realist tax form.
Yes.
I think that's more important because I have to A, make sure that the person I'm talking to actually owns the home. And then B, I want to get my tax record information on the size of the home, the square footage of the home, because that might not match what my client's opinion is of their home. And it's very important to find out what the recorded data is first.
Great. And another way to do that is you could actually go to the county assessor's website to each county. Usually you are able to go directly to the county and pull up that information as well. But for this house, since actually I bought this house about 2 years ago, so I already actually, one thing you could do is maybe go to close file. Maybe this was 2 years ago, so let's say 600 days back. You can actually look it up if they were listed before and find the house here. So I did something wrong there. So.
Well, and I agree with you, John, there. And that's one of the things I always do is I'll put in 0 to 1,000 in the close marks just to see if that property's been conveyed. And a lot of times it'll give me a chance to look at pictures of the home before going out to the listing. So I'm not just ultimately guessing when I show up to the listing appointment. Right.
So actually I found it here. So we'll quickly take a look at that. So this was actually originally listed for $815. They dropped it to $799, and actually I purchased it for $775. And then since then, I've actually upgraded the house, remodeled, put about maybe 100,000 or more into the house. So we'll factor that in our CMA, and you probably want to do that with your own CMA as well. So let's actually go back. And so I know where this is pretty well. So what do you do to get to a CMA from this point?
Well, again, John, if you don't mind going back to Realist, the tax page, because I think it's important. This is what I train my brokers to do typically. Right. Yes, you can go to the county assessor's office. That's take a little bit more time consuming. Every county is going to have their own assessor's office. So Denver might be a little bit different than Jefferson County, which might be different than Douglas County. Right. So I think this is a good resource to kind of just start. Are we having issues clicking into that?
Yes, so that's why I didn't go into there. So we're just going to go directly.
So if you actually just go back to your closed listing, John.
Sure.
And I'm going to try something, see if it works.
Right, so you're going to just show them the public record of the...
Yeah, right off of the listing.
Yeah, I understand. So
this is another way to circumnavigate. Realist is a DOS-based program. Some computers might actually have an issue pulling that up. Right. One thing you can always look is right below the picture. There's a little house that looks like I would call it the Denver Mint, so to speak. Keep going to your right, John. Right there it is. Click on that. And this will pull up a version of Realist directly through the MLS. So if you're having issues with it populating, here it is.
Right.
So one of the things that I like to always do and start with, and I kind of joke about this, but I think it's a very important thing, is who are you talking to?
Gotcha.
Make sure that the owner of record, under owner's information here, is the person that you have the listing appointment with.
That's correct.
In some cases, I might see that there's a second owner on title, John, and I find out that I'm talking to only half of the divorced parties. So there's some things that might come up. There might be some spelling errors in that name. So that's one of the things that I'm always looking for. The second thing I'm also looking for here is to just kind of get a gauge of what the county record is saying that the actual size of this home is.
Right.
So here, under characteristics, we see that the home was built in 1983.
Right.
That's really important because that'll tell me if I need a lead-based paint disclosure.
Right.
And then also it's showing that it's 2,850 square feet above grade, with 1,408 square feet in the basement and approximately 1,267 square feet of finish.
Right.
And that's what's recorded against county record. So I think it's also very important that you find out what's recorded against county record when you're trying to compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges.
Sure. Okay, perfect.
So now that we know what we're dealing with, and John, just bear with me. I know you've got your house memorized, but I'm going to just jot this down. So it's 280 feet above grade, 1,408 below, total square footage, 4,117. So those are the numbers that I'm looking for. 3 beds, looks like 3 baths, right, John?
Sure.
Okay.
It's
so
actually,
let's go back to the MLS.
It's actually in the basement, there's 2 bedrooms and then another full bath in the basement. That's not reflected here. But
okay, and it also looks like that's not in county records. So again, things that you might want to have conversations with when your clients when you show up to listing appointments.
Now, can you see this screen on your computer?
I can see the MLS listing, yes.
Okay, good. All right.
Now, do me a quick favor, John, since I don't know exactly where you live. Can you just show me on the map where you might be?
Yeah, so I'm going to actually do this right now.
Okay, perfect.
Active pending closed. And we're going to change that back to 180. So I live in right here, which is right next to our office. So it's called a little subdivision called Arapahoe Lake.
Okay, that's a great subdivision over there. So
yeah,
I'm like John, I like to start with the map feature. So under criteria, I'm going to select my 3 different criterias.
Sure.
John, I think you need to delete the street number.
Yep, I got you.
Okay. So what I typically like to do, because I know my neighborhoods well, I'll know that a neighborhood on the other side of Orchard may be in a different comp range or on the other side of Arapahoe Road. So for me, I like to click on active pending close, and then I go straight to my map feature. And I'll actually probably also segregate the condos out so I don't have to deal with that. Sure. And just mark single family homes.
Got you.
It'll just kind of help me get rid of data I don't really need.
Right.
So if we could go back to the map search.
Yep, I did.
And what I like to do is I like to stay within the subdivision first. This is going to give me a good idea of exactly what's going on in the subdivision. And it's also going to give me something called my absorption rate of the subdivision. We'll talk a little bit about the statistics when I do my market analysis. So what I like to do is kind of just zoom out and draw a square, basically from Dayton to Havana and Cayley to Orchard, right, John?
Okay, Dayton to Havana and Cayley to Orchard. Okay, so it's actually north of Cayley. So I'm going to actually draw it kind of
that's why I said up to Orchard.
Maybe. I'm just going to kind of do that for us for now. Okay.
Okay, so this is going to give us 14 results. They're all single family homes immediately in the subdivision.
Yes.
And doesn't your subdivision go a little bit further north to Quebec?
Yeah, it does. But you know what, just for this quick illustration, we're going to, so this house actually.
My map search in, I typically go straight to results.
Okay.
And what I'm looking for is the single line results. So we could please go to the results page.
Yep.
And the reason why I like this results page, so in this particular case, we only have 14 listings, John. If I was trying to analyze something, let's say in the Highlands, and I got 78 listings to thumb through, I really don't want to take the time to go through every single one of them. What I want to do is compare like-kind properties to my subject property. So in this case, when we were in Realist, we jotted down the above square footage and the below grade square footage. And if you can see, there's 2 columns here. And when I get the single line display, it really allows me to look at the 2 square footages. So I know that this house is in the same exact subdivision. I'm not doing the old, I'm going out a full mile because I'm trying to get this property to appraise. I'm really focused on the subdivision itself, and most of the homes are going to be built within about a 5-year period of time. So I'm going to be picking a lot of like-kind product, but what I'm really looking for is to match the square footage of the subject property to my comparable sales. So I know I have 2850 above grade, and then I got 1400 and below. And you want to be within that like 10% range, I would say, right, John?
Sure.
Is that kind of what rule you use? So absolutely, we want to look at the 1 active listing in this subdivision because that is our competition.
You know, the funny thing is that house is right next door to me.
So that would be very important for you to know when you go to the listing appointment, right, John? Whether it's a comparable or not, guys, you better know what the neighbor's house is listed for. Because they will be very disappointed if they come out and say, well, what's John's house doing? And you don't know.
So I've actually been inside that house. They just painted and carpeted to put it on the market. They were at $825 and they just dropped it to $795. So it's a very, very comparable house. They actually don't have any remodel that I might have. So I think the difference is probably, if I had to guess, maybe $80,000 to $100,000 difference in remodel that I had done to the current home there. So just, that one's good. Which one would you
else? That's a good comp. Now the next one, so you've got 2 comps. You've got the next one on Elmira Circle that's 2,200 square feet above grade. Our subject property is 2,800. That's quite a bit off. Now it's again going to be one of the neighbors' houses. So
it's just right in front of my house, actually.
Definitely something that I would have as part of my report. Even though it's not exactly comparable, it's the neighbor's house. You've got to know what the neighbor's houses are doing because your clients are going to expect that.
Yes, agreed.
East Fair Place. Now that's a little big. So it's 3,300 square feet above grade. It's a 5,000 square foot house. This is almost 900 square feet bigger than our subject. So I'm not going to really use that particular listing.
Okay, how about the next
However,
one?
Jamaica, that's almost spot on, right? We're only 190 square feet above grade below. So that's a great comparable sale. Maplewood, a little bit smaller, but still it's in that upper price point. I think that's a good comparable. So I would use that one as well. Fair, getting a little big, but it's still within range. I think I would use that one as well, John.
Okay.
Iowa, a little too big at 3,300 square feet. Jamaica, spot on right there. 2858, just a slightly smaller basement. There's probably like a half footprint on this basement. Remember, appraisers aren't going to give you a lot for basement square footage as they will above grade. So that's a really good comp, I think, on Jamaica.
Okay.
There's another decent comp on Geneva at 2,700 square feet. Again, these are slightly smaller. These are going to have smaller basement square footage. And you can see that in the difference in the numbers as I'm kind of looking at those. I probably would throw Ironton in there as well.
Okay.
Just to have some data. And I would also throw Maplewood Avenue. And I think that's about what I would use there, John. That's 9 comparable sales. It's plenty of data. You want to at least have 5 or 6, right, John?
Okay. Sometimes
that's typically what I'm looking for. So the next button we're going to go to is just like John's going in to is the CMA button on the bottom of the screen.
Perfect. And guess what? I already have you here.
Okay, so Pete Psotny is thinking about buying John Park's home here, and we're going to decide what I should pay for this property. So
now, if you guys don't have your clients, just click on this button. It's very easy to follow. Just put their first name, last name, and email address, and you could create your contact pretty easily.
Always a good habit to be in, John. I also like to input the phone number. You never know when you'll be in a situation where you need to grab a phone number, and it's always good to have that extra.
All right, so let's go to the next page. Pages.
So pages. So what I like to do is I actually click on comparables. So if you could just click on the link comparables.
Yes.
That's automatically going to give me my math formulas that I'm looking for. I'm a little old school and I'm not a cover sheet person, John. So I typically delete the default cover sheet. However, that's probably not the best practice to be in, because the default cover sheet will put a nice picture in there,
yes,
give you a nice cover list. I do, however, delete the first two. I do delete the summary list, and I delete the price adjustments.
Got you.
And there's two reasons for that. The summary list is going to ask you to pinpoint an exact price. And what I coach my agents is, we're not appraisers. We're realtors. We shouldn't be saying your house is worth $462,000. We should be saying your house is worth $410,000 to $440,000. You want to give them a range. You don't want to give a direct number. So I delete the summary list, and I also delete the price adjustments.
So delete that.
And we don't have an appraisal license, so we shouldn't be giving advice on saying, hey, that garage should be adjusted by $10,000 by an appraiser. If you're licensed, you're welcome to give that that opinion. However, you probably shouldn't be doing that as an unlicensed appraiser.
So
that is what I keep on my display. You can get into a lot of other sheets, but I don't typically go into that.
So this is where, not for me, I've never done it, but I've seen some other realtors would use custom pages. So if they have a bio about themselves, about their team, you could actually create a PDF custom pages and upload it to here. So you can make as many pages as you want. So it could be about your team, about your company, or you could also do like pricing suggestion. You know, maybe you wrote a blog, you want to add this in here, you want to price it right, and whatever you want to do, you could kind of do that. I know that's part of pricing. You know, so anyway, you could add many pages to this, but we'll keep it just like this for now, and we'll go to the subject.
Next tab. So subject property. So this one's pretty easy, especially if it was active before. You can just fill it directly in.
So I did cheat, so I know the previous MLS number. Or you could fill it in manually too. So let's fill it in. There you go. Boom. I already got the photo.
If it wasn't a prior active listing, you're going to have to go through manually.
And then click
you can always
everything.
Upload a photo of you instead of the property or something along those lines.
Right. So if you do want to go ahead and use a different photo, you could actually click here and then put this. Because I didn't like that photo. That's the back of my house with the previous listing broker. So I want a new photo. You could always change. There we go. That's the front of the house. So, you know. And that's a good tip for young agents. If you're doing a CMA, trying to get a listing, maybe go to the house first, take the photo, take that extra step, and then on your CMA, include that photo of the house. The homeowner might be a little impressed.
Okay, sounds good, John. And then this will pretty much self-populate. You can go through and populate it yourself. Any more time spent here? I don't think so, John. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, actually I do. So in the public records on the real list, you said 3 bedrooms, but actually this listing is correct. We do have 5 bedrooms and then 4 bedrooms. So check, just verify that all the information is correct here before you complete your CMA. And actually I like doing custom fields. So I actually like to put updated in here to add it to my adjustments. And then I put remodeled. Then this one is actually, I know this community well. So does it sit next to a lake or not? So location. And then I also type in other. So I'll share that with you when we get to the pricing adjustments. So that's kind of what I do.
I always learn something new with you, John.
Me too. Okay, so let's go to the cover.
The cover sheet. This is basically what it sounds like. This is how your cover sheet's going to be displayed. All of your agent information, the name, comparables.
Perfect.
So these are the comparables that we just picked a little bit earlier. This screen allows you to not select some of them if you choose to do so. However, we want to use all the comparables that we discussed, so we will select them all, just like John did.
Okay.
Moving on to map. This is the map display that's going to be displayed on your CMA. So we are just waiting for Matrix to upload that.
So that's the house. Number 1 is my house. And then all the pretty close by. So that's good.
And again, when I'm doing my initial CMA, I want to know what that subdivision is doing. When we're done with this particular CMA, I'll show you what I do for an appraiser because it's slightly different. Okay. Adjustments. Again, I don't recommend that we get into these things. This is something an appraiser should be doing because you're adjusting the value by bedrooms, size of garages, and so forth. If you're giving your clients a range, you never have to really get into the adjustments of a property, in my opinion. John, how do you deal with this?
Actually, I do go in there. So we're going to go in
and
there
it's
real
okay.
quick.
You have a very different opinion. So
yeah, so I am actually going to take the other approach and just say, hey, we do make adjustments. I do for my clients. So I don't make any bedrooms. Sometimes I give $5,000 per bedroom, depending on sub area. And bathrooms could be $5,000 to $10,000 depending on sub area. So you have to, I actually do the homework of what's the average 4 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms look like pricing wise. So I'll make an adjustment there. You do want to make some adjustment here on above grade square footage. So subject property is about 300 square foot more. If it's $200 average, let's say, what's 200 times $300, 60,000. So this house is worth 60,000 more, maybe. You know, this is just a guesstimate. I'm not really going into all the details. Sometimes I make only adjustment I make for square footage, maybe below grade finish. I may give $20 for finish for the basement. They're both walkout basements, so this difference isn't too much, so I'll leave that there. Finish walkout, same. So per year, maybe $4,000, $1,000 a year. This is just rough estimate on what I typically do. And then I'll look at the photos of both, photos of the subject, fantastic location, resort-like living, heart of DTC, beautifully updated, 5-bedroom. Nothing that really stands out. There's some granite, stainless steel appliances. So I think maybe, it's hard to tell, but maybe they're both equally upgraded. So I'm going to leave all this kind of the same here, and I'll go to the next property. Okay.
So in these adjustments, you have to go through every single property and make the adjustments on each home.
So on this, the comparable house is only 3 baths. So like I said, maybe so then we'll add 5,000 because my house has another bedroom. And here, maybe the difference is like $600, $200, maybe $120. This is a tough one. This is a tough adjustment. Something like that. Everybody's a little different. I've seen it where people won't do as much adjustments. Below grade, maybe 400, so maybe 80,000 difference. There. Again, 5 years younger, $5,000. Lot could matter, but I'm gonna leave it there. And then this is remodeled, prime location across pool and table. But same thing with my house. I think this house is, oh, okay. So this is right next door. Yeah. So this is actually doesn't back to the pool and the tennis courts, and my house does. So location is actually worse. So I'll just say, location-wise, maybe this is $50,000 difference. So that's kind of what I usually do. I'll go ahead and adjust accordingly. Yeah, this is a little bit different from what you were saying, but you'll just go directly to pricing, right?
Well, I don't do much in the adjustments and pricing there, John. Mm-hmm. I prefer to just kind of go to the finished product. I wanted to let you walk through that process. Yes, you're absolutely right. You can make adjustments to all those properties. I do things just a little bit differently. So
sure.
I'll let you kind of walk through the pricing side, and then I'll let you know what I do in the finished product.
Yeah, I'm not going to go through every comparable because there are 9 of them. So it will take quite a bit of time, but just kind of shows the audience that they can do this. And my recommendation is on the notes, if you did suggest a price saying this is a CMA or
that's going to get you out of trouble for your appraisal adjustments, right, John?
Yeah, this is not an appraisal. This is just professional value opinion. Something like that, so that they know this is not an appraisal. So usually I actually suggest a list price here. I make my suggestion. So my suggested list price is whatever. Let's say 900.
So I do things just a little bit differently, and I'll kind of show you where I get my suggested list price and the way I do it. I think both ways are great. It just depends on what your style of selling is.
Right.
So John, if we can go to the finish box, please.
Yes.
And when you come into finish box, remember to always click on View CMA.
Yes.
If you just go to email it, it will close you out and you'll have to redo the whole entire CMA, or you'll have to go into your email and click back through it that way. So now our CMA is going to load. This is the loaded document. This is your presentation for your listing here. What I would like John to do is please scroll down to the well, I guess we can kind of go through this. So the first page is obviously the cover page. Pricing recommendations. This is when you do your adjustments in the pricing that John did there at the last sheet. Here's our CMA map layout, again, showing your clients the specific area that you're targeting and where you're pulling your comparable sales from. Yes. And if you can just, so this is just kind of some minimums and maximums, some pretty graphs. People like to see graphs. That's what I kind of joke around. And in my presentations, I actually skip over a lot of this stuff. I leave this with my clients. But what I'll do is I'll go to the summary page. So we can keep scrolling. Here's my page. And this is where I'm going to spend a majority of my time. Now, one thing I like to do, John, when I go to my listing presentations is not the day before, not 2 days before, but an hour before I go to my listing presentation, I'm going to email my client all of these comps as links. The reason why I wait till an hour before my presentation is I don't want to give them enough time to discuss the comparable sales with their friends and family and other realtors. But I do want to give them just enough time that they're going to click on those links and they're going to look at the pictures while I'm on my way to their home. And that's the point of sending those links prior to getting to that listing presentation. So they have that hour to kind of click through some things, look at some pictures, and get an idea of how their property is going to compare to the other properties that have sold or are under contract or active in their neighborhood. And then, again, I like to use a range. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down with my client, and I'm going to tell them, stay on this page, go scroll up just a little bit for me, John, please.
Sure.
So I'm going to say, okay, John, I love to list your house. I know you've done a number of different improvements. We see that your neighbor's house, which is slightly smaller, is currently under market for $795,000. That's your competition. That's your active competition, okay?
Correct.
And the good news is that's your only active competition, so we just have to be a little bit better than that listing, but obviously we're going to likely have to sell it for more than $795,000 to keep you happy.
Sure.
Your pending listings are significantly smaller, and again, it's your neighbor's house. So I just wanted to make sure that we were understanding that your neighbor's house, which is smaller, is currently under contract at $679,000. But you have quite a bit more square footage, so we're likely to get a higher yield from price point. And then my true data lies here in my close. So this is actually what consumers are willing to pay for the product and the square footage that the consumers are willing to pay for in that price point. So what I see here is there's two columns I'm really focused on. Number one is the square footage, and I've already looked at the properties. I've already clicked through the pictures. I know which ones are renovated and which ones are not renovated. Okay, so obviously Fair, Maple, and Jamaica are renovated properties. The second, Jamaica, Geneva, and Ironton are not. And some of them are going to vary slightly in square footage. This is where John's adjustments are actually going to come into hand, where I have to kind of take an educated guess at those. What I'll do is I'm not going to tell the client over the phone whether their house is worth $750,000 or $900,000. I need to determine that at the property.
Yes.
As soon as I walk into their home, I say, "Hi, John. How you doing?"
Mm-hmm.
I ask John what his hobbies are, possibly get personal with him first.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then I'll ask him to tour the house.
Yes.
As I tour the home,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take mental notes.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like to take notes that shows your clients that you're actually paying attention and you're not just kind of in la la land walking around, even though my notes half the time will be a caricature anyway. But I'm really just trying to figure out, is this house remodeled or is this house not remodeled or is this
Mm-hmm.
house uninhabitable really?
Mm-hmm.
So those are my three kind of gauges, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If the house is worn, not typically remodeled, I know that I'm going to be in that comp range of kind of the lower to mid value of the home.
Mm-hmm.
If the house is remodeled to the T, I know I'm going to be towards the higher range of what my homes are selling for. And here I can see that my higher range is 866 to about 900,000.
Mm-hmm.
And my lower range is about 750 to 777,000.
Yes.
So by doing that walk, I am now determining in my head what the range of that value should be.
Correct.
And let me explain why I like to use the range.
Mm-hmm.
So now I've walked through John's house. John, you have a wonderful house. I can tell you spent $100,000 in here. Man, that marble in the bathroom was stunning. I really like what you did here. So let's talk about the top of the price point, because you really aren't towards the bottom. You're not that 20-year-old product. You're not the oak cabinets. You're not the oak handrails and the gold hardware everywhere. Okay, John's the renovated home. So I'm looking at my comparative market analysis, and I can tell you that Fair Maple in Jamaica, Fair sold for $866,000, John.
And
it sold in 3 days.
Yes.
And that was listed just in July 24th. So that's a really good sale. That's something that's reflecting our current market conditions. And the next comp that I have sold on May 26th on Maple for $895,000. That listed on May 26th. So I do know that that also was post-COVID market. Now we are talking about COVID in this year. However, if you're looking in the future, you might not have had those types of economic impacts. So if my comparable sales from March or April or even the beginning of May, I know that that sale was impacted drastically by COVID and likely will yield a higher price point in today's market than it did 3 months ago, even though it's still a comparable sale. My last sale is Jamaica Court. Again, a 4,200 square foot home, sold at $900,000 and sold in 11 days. So I know that I can go to John, and this is where my range comes into play. And I say, John, I would like to discuss that. I think I could sell your house anywhere between $860,000 to $900,000. And I think we can price your house, frankly, anywhere in that range. What I want to do is have you make the decision on which way we want to price that. If we price it at $860,000, we're going to be priced very aggressively. And my data shows that I should be able to sell your house in a relatively short period of time, because your neighborhood absorption is only 9 days on average.
Right.
So most homes are selling in that 9 to 10 day range, as long as they're priced within our comparable sales. And then, John, if you want to be really aggressive, I would tell you to list a price closer to $900,000, but it might take us a couple of weeks to get there. The last listing took 11 days to get sold at the $900,000 price point. If my client's expectation is in excess of $900,000, I'm going to have a conversation with them, depending on how in excess it is. If John says, you know, Pete, I really want you to list my property for $930,000. Well, you're close. And I'm going to have that conversation with, you know, you are over the highest comparable sales. And if we don't get that value in the next 3 weeks, since your neighborhood absorption rate is only 9 days, we should probably consider that price reduction. And I like to have that conversation with my clients up front. Get them to commit to a period of time if they're above your highest comparable sales. Now, if John comes to me and says, hey, Pete, I'm happy with $850,000, man, you'll be my hero if you can get me $850,000. I know that's going to be a great listing appointment because I can list at his price point, and I could probably even suggest that he lists a little bit higher. And that's going to be a very good selling point for you as an agent. So the reason I like to use the range is I like my clients to decide what that price point is going to be. I don't like to tell my clients, hey, this is exactly what you need to list your price for. What the conversation I have with my clients is, if you list at $900,000, it's going to take a little bit longer. Our data shows that it might take 2 to 3 weeks. If you list closer to $860,000, we might sell your home in the opening weekend. And that's usually the way that I like to give my clients the range of what they can pick from. And then it lets them decide what their list price is going to be. I like to do that because there's less of a chance that they're going to be blaming you directly for their results because they made that decision themselves.
Right. So, but the client says, well, that's why I'm hiring you for. I want you to give me a price. Then you do have to come up with a price.
Of course, and you play that within reason. I mean, if your client is really pushing on that price point, absolutely. But you'll find that, you tell your clients, hey, 860 to 900, they almost spit out a price almost immediately.
Actually, I do that. I do exactly what you do, Pete, so even if I do give them low price, mid price, and high price with my adjusted pricing. And I say, well, it's exactly the same. If you go for the top, there is a risk we're taking because we may miss the market. And if we miss the market, we do have to adjust within a couple of weeks or something like that. So that's a conversation I always have with my sellers as well.
Now, the unique thing about this particular property is John has a lot of other comparable sales that are very similar to his. A lot of times when we're in the high-end market, you're trying to compare a 20,000 foot home to a 15,000 foot home. And I think that's really where I resort to price per square foot and looking at my average price per square foot to make adjustments, because in that case, you really do have to make an adjustment when a house is 4,000 or 5,000 square foot difference because you're in that super mega $1 million market or something along those lines. So if you scroll down just a little bit further, John, you'll see on the summary page there is your price. Whoop, we passed it. Sorry.
There you go.
Price per square foot. This is just kind of the general summary. This also gives you your active days on market, which is that one property, which is likely overpriced to $795. Your close, you have 9 data points, and your average price per square foot is about $198. And your pending's at $241, and your active's at $232. So using that average $206 per square foot really tells me that if I'm making my adjustments, that should be the price point that I should be using. And John actually used $200 right off the top of his head when he was working on that. Other than that, John, that's pretty much how I go over my market analysis when I'm presenting this to my client. Anything you'd like to add, John?
No, I think that's pretty much everything that our broker associates should know about CMAs. My recommendation is take a couple classes at RECOLORADO. Take some CMA classes so you are very familiar with this. I don't know about Pete, but for me, I do use this a lot, even with my buyers. Right before they put an offer, actually, some like to give them some data, give them CMA, so they can kind of take a look at what they're going to offer. So
very important, John. Good point there. I use this both on the buy and sell. In fact, I use this every single time I offer on a property, especially in this competitive market. If they're priced at $900,000, there's 5 offers on the table, and you're offering $950,000, $960,000 on that property. You need to have that conversation with your client that we may have some issues in the appraisal, and I don't want my client to be surprised 3 weeks down the road and asking me why that property didn't appraise, because we've discussed the comparable sales before writing that particular offer. One more thing I'd like to cover real quick, John. If we can go back to the matrix, please.
Right there. Yep.
And let's just go ahead and close out of this particular CMA.
But you want to save it.
Yes, save it first, of course.
So there you go. We just saved it. And then.
So now that I've looked at the neighborhood in general and I've got a good idea of what John's subdivision is doing, I'm going to do one more general comparative market analysis that's going to really target any appraisers that might be looking at this property, and then really give me an idea of what's going on generally around the area. So in this particular analysis, an appraiser is going to go out a full mile from the subject property. Correct. So if you could go back to the search criteria on the top, please. Okay, and then on the top, right below the map search button where it says my location, there you go. So go ahead and type in the subject property. Go out a full mile.
Oops, 1 mile. There you go.
And then I think you need to click on the My Location button again. I don't think it populated there, John. The address.
Yep.
Okay, so this is automatically going to draw a mile radius circle around the subject property.
And you want just the closed.
What's that?
Do you want to get rid of the active and pending?
I usually, yeah, because again, this is more for an appraiser standpoint.
Yeah.
So, I'm not, when I'm looking at the subdivision, I'm telling my client what they should list this for. An appraiser is going to go out a full mile. So this is going to give me a good idea of what this property is likely to appraise for. And as you can see, there's 79 matches, so quite a bit of data here that is sold within a mile of John's property. So this goes back to going to our results page and our single page results. And then coming back and just trying to really match up the 2,800 square foot properties with the 4,100 total finished. So I just usually start with above grade, and I start clicking on any properties that are within a couple of hundred square feet of the 2,800.
So guys, if you press that button here above, that will do it by square footage, small to the largest, or if you click it again, it goes largest to the smallest.
So you can easily go down to above grade square footage, starting around 3,000 square feet. John, right, what is that, Big Canyon Place?
Yeah, somewhere here, right here. About $29.99. Yep.
And then I would even go up. If I was looking at an appraiser, I would look at Ida Court for $1,050,000. I would probably present that. I would even go at Big Canyon Place, which is $1,200,000. Now these are in Greenwood Village, as you can see. They're not quite in Englewood. Right. But again, I'm just giving this appraiser data to showing that there's square footage that is comping within a mile of that subject property.
I like it.
Not necessarily an appraiser is going to always use that, but if I'm a listing agent and my offer is $980,000 and I want it to appraise, I'm probably going to have to pick some of these comps from Englewood or from Greenwood Village and ask that appraiser to make some adjustments there so that I can possibly get my $980,000 value. Because if I'm just showing that appraiser the market analysis that we just went through, and the highest sale is $900,000, you're not going to likely see that $70,000 adjustment in your value.
Right.
Whereas if an appraiser maybe uses Big Canyon at 1.2 million, there might be some adjustments, negative adjustments to that particular comparable sale that would get you your value that you're looking for. Okay. So I don't think that this is a good way to necessarily tell your client what to list their property for, because you are pulling from other neighborhoods. But it is a good way to argue value in the event that you need to argue that value during your appraisal, objection, and resolution periods.
That is awesome. I love it.
And John, that's generally how I do a CMA. This is how I evaluate a property. Do you have anything you would like to add to what we just discussed?
Okay. Well, just before we end this video, I always like to say something for our new agents that we're training. Your new agents and my new agents. So for CMA, let's say you're going in there, you're not the only listing broker that they're interviewing. What would be your tip for your guys?
Well, John, one of the things is a lot of people are going to hire the personality that they like. Okay. So when you go to your listing presentation,
do you go and check on the uniform?
Yes. You can come in the tie, or you could just wear a really loud green shirt, whatever is going to fit that personality of yours. But the most important thing that you have to remember is the numbers should be the last thing that you're talking about in your listing appointments. When you walk into that front door, you have to understand that someone that's going to talk to 4 or 5 different realtors, chances are they're going to be looking at the same comparable sales. So don't spend a ton of time pounding those comps into their heads, and especially if you're like third or fourth guy, you're gonna put them to sleep, literally. Yeah. So the first thing is establishing that relationship with that seller. When you walk into that door and you say, "Hey, John, great to meet you. I'm looking at the art on the walls. I'm looking at for a golf cart, a set of golf clubs, kids' toys, and the first thing I see when I see that amazing art on your front mantel, hey, John, that's an incredible piece. Can you tell me a little bit about it?" You know, I'm not talking about his house. I'm talking about the art piece. If I see a snowboard in the corner, I say, "Hey, you know what? It was a wonderful winter last year. Do you ski or snowboard a lot? I see you've got your gear." Get that person off of the mind of the fact that you're there to sell their home. Start talking about their personal lifestyle. And then my second best question, I think, after I've kind of gone through that, is what are you trying to do after you sell this home? Let them tell you what's going to excite them. And I try to do that in the first 5 or 10 minutes of walking into someone's door, because I'm going to use that motivation throughout my presentation. Hey, John, I know you want to buy that Hawaii condo. You know, when we get you $900,000 for it, you're going to have that significant amount of money to put down. Whenever you get into a difficult situation or you see that seller starting to kind of clam up, take them back to their goals of what the real estate is. Take them back to why they want to sell your home. And that's going to help you get over those conversations of whether they want to overlist by $20,000 or $30,000. Hey, you want to list your house at $930,000, John? I think that's really close. But don't you want to get into Hawaii in 4 weeks? And you know, if we listed a little more aggressively, we might actually get that dollar amount, but we're going to accomplish what you need in 3 days versus 2-3 weeks. So use that motivation to help negotiate. And then at the end, you go over the comparable sales. And the very last thing I go over is what I want to charge for my commission. That's usually my last thing that I say. So
for our associates, me and yours, maybe we need to do some practice with them before they go out. You know, let's practice with them. You know, give them.
I'm always available, John. Yeah. I'm always happy to have classes. You can always reach out to John and I. We'll throw you guys in a classroom. We can role play through these things and look at multiple different types of analysis.
Right. We could give them hell. I don't like you. I just don't like your attitude.
That's all right.
I want you to sell it, but maybe for 0.5% commission. How do you like that?
Well, you have to sell your value too. One of the things I like to do when I'm going through a listing is I do fix and flip properties. I have a lot of knowledge of the stuff behind the wall. And as I'm walking a property, especially with my buyers, I'm talking about the mechanical systems, the different types of idiosyncrasies with the different eras of construction and things like that. Show your worth when you're talking to these people.
So that's another valuable lesson for our young agents. Do some homework, guys. Difference between bi-level, tri-level, two-story home. The difference in different roofing materials, different siding. What's the difference between wood siding? You know, stucco and synthetic stucco. All those will come in hand in the future, right, Pete?
Absolutely, very important. And again, we're happy to have some more classes. This is a general way of analyzing the value of a property.
All right, thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. I hope our agents enjoyed our class. So, 차려, 경례.